Hi, welcome to episode 173 of the Passionate Spinner podcast. My name is Tracy and you can find me as Schnüffeltier on Ravelry and on Instagram. I'm going to put that in the description box because the word is not that easy to spell. And you can find my patterns on Ravelry and on Etsy. And I do have a Patreon. I'm going to leave all the links down below, just so you know. Okay, let's start. I have some finished things. And I'm gonna start with the non-my pattern thing first. I finished a pair of socks. I've shown these a few times on the podcast before. They are done. They look like this. The blue turquoise yarn is a mystery yarn that I have no idea who dyed it, but it is a hand-dyed yarn. And the green is a red heart sock. And I paired them because this hand-dyed has the exact same shade of green as some speckles in it. Aren't they pretty? I think they turn out really nice. And I'm working on a second pair because two of my friends were like, "Ooh, are these for me?" And I decided to make a pair for each of them. So this is the first pair. The second pair is going to have a bit of a shorter leg, but I can do two pairs out of this yarn. I knit my socks with 64 stitches top down on US 2, that's a 2.75 millimeter DPN. And my gauge, I measured my gauge on these socks because I wanted to know. I have 31.5 stitches for 10 centimeters on my socks. So yeah, normal, like the standard sock gauge. They are finished. Cannot show you any labels because I don't have any. But the socks are really pretty. So that's the socks. They are finished. I'm going to show you the started one in a second. So the other thing I finished. If you have watched my pattern reveal introduction video, I'm not sure what these are called. You will have seen all of this. And if not, I decided to put out a pattern. And it's a accessory pattern. Is that a word? Is that the right word? I do not know. It's a 6-in-1 pattern for pot holders, dishcloths, face cloth, makeup wipes, washcloths, and a towel. Did I get all of them? I'm not sure. I'm going to show you the ones that I made as samples for my pattern. And I made another one I'm going to show you after. So I'm starting with a towel because it's on top. In reality, it's the last thing I knit. So I knit this towel to be a small guest size. So you can either use it in your kitchen as a hand towel or in your guest bathroom or in your bathroom for your face or your hands, because this is very nice. So yeah. I used Müller Samba, but you can use Peaches and Cream or Sugar and Cream or Knit Picks Dishy or any other worsted weight unmercerized cotton. That's the important part. So the pot holders are knit with mercerized cotton. That's the shiny one. And it's also made to not absorb water that easily. And unmercerized cotton doesn't have that shine, but it absorbs water really well. So it's perfect for everything that has to get wet. So yeah, this is the towel size and I used almost exactly 2 skeins of this red yarn. And I made a green loop to go with it because I just like the look of a contrast loop. You can use one color, of course. You can use a self-striping or a self, variegated or whatever, scraps, anything. So towel. The next thing I have on top here are makeup wipes. I made them this size. And I think that they are amazing. They are a very sustainable thing to make, especially if you use makeup a lot and therefore use a lot of those little cotton rounds. These are a perfect solution because this is very easy to care for. You can wash this yarn at 60 degrees Celsius. That is a very warm, washing cycle. Then I made them a bit bigger with a loop so you can hang them to dry for a face cloth. And the good thing about this pattern is it is a bit of an exfoliator, you know, built into your cloth. So you get a nice peeling effect when you use these. So these are the face cloths. Then I have the rest still rolled up for a reel that I did on Instagram, because apparently that's all the rage right now. And in it I have the next 2 patterns. I'm going to take all of them out now. And they are the normal size washcloth. And then I have the dishcloth, the last ones with the worsted weight cotton. And they are like the washcloth, a tiny bit shorter and without a loop. They're just, you know, not quite squares. And the last 3 items are the pot holders. And those I made with with a mercerized cotton, the shiny one. And like the default cotton in Germany is Schachenmeier Catania. You could also use Sheepjes Katona or a lot of other yarns. I don't know all of the cotton yarns, but you can use a lot of these. This is basically a sport weight cotton that I held double. And I knit this and I knit this on the exact same needle size. You can see there's a difference in stiffness, which is good because the pot holder should be a bit denser and stiffer so you cannot burn your fingers. So this pot holder, I held the yarn double. I did the loop, and it's the same gauge for this as for the other things. Even though this is a bit thicker yarn when you hold it double, you know. And then I have that one. And a solid dark blue. So this is my newest pattern. I called it "And All for One" because it's a 6-in-1 pattern for all the things. And I had 2 test knitters, and I'm very grateful to them for testing this pattern for me. I just have to put everything back now, so I can put it away. And yeah, it's been released last Sunday, and maybe you want to try it. So after I finished all of these samples, I wanted to try different yarns, and I went to my local yarn shop and I picked up 3 plant-based yarns that I thought could work. And the first one I tried, I used the same needle size. So all of the samples were knit on a 4mm needle. That is a US 6. And I did this one here on that same needle. But I'm going to use this yarn definitely again. But I'm going to use it on a slightly smaller needle, I think. Because this is super loose, which makes it nice to use because it's very soft. So the yarn that I used here, I'm not sure what it's called, and I didn't bring the ball band. It is a Lana Grossa yarn. It's a Linea Pura, but I don't know which one. It is a recycled linen and cotton blend. And it's like 52% linen and 48% of the cotton, I think. And I really like how it turned out. It's, like I said, it's very loose. You probably can see me through it. So I would go down a needle size, but I made this little towel for me to use for my face. And I mean, for that, it's definitely large enough, you know. I think the linen will make it extra nice to use. Right now, when I touch it, it feels a bit stiffer and, you know, not as nice and soft, but it is linen, which means that it will soften with every wash. And I had a 100% linen yarn left over in my stash in this very dusty pink, like a very, very light colored blush pink, I think. And this, yeah, this is for me. I used half a skein of the yarn. And I hope to make more of these more luxurious ones, you know? So yeah, this has all been my pattern, and I'm really happy with it. I like knitting this pattern. A lot of the patterns that I've written in the past incorporate this specific ribbing pattern. And as I'm releasing my patterns, you will see that creep up a lot. One of the items I'm going to re-release in a slightly better version and a longer version, and is this wrap, and it has the stitch pattern. So I just really like that. Okay, now 2 things that I have on my needles. First thing, no surprise because I already told you, I am knitting a second pair of those socks. Now come out here. Okay. And I have done the cuff on the first sock. It looks like this. It's a cuff, it's nothing special. I knit my cuff 2x2 ribbing all the time because that's my preferred method. I always do 20 rounds for adult socks. And I'm going to start with the actual yarn next. So this is going to happen. And this is the Red Heart sock. I have some extra needles in here because the needles I used for the first pair, they've been in use for, I don't know, 10 years. And the tips have started to, just rub out. Because when you use wooden needles, it's a natural material. And if you constantly hit that same spot with your needle tip, it will start to just carve away. So I have only 2 needles left from that last set because they are just not usable anymore. Now, the exciting thing. I started a new project yesterday. For the first time, I feel like, I think almost all year, I felt like starting a piece of clothing for myself. And it's exciting. So I decided to cast on a project that I had put together a while ago, and it is the Bagatelle hoodie by Julie Knits in Paris. And I just started, it's not a lot that I have to show, but I can show you something. So I'm that far in. I've done the first striping sequence and it looks like this so far. I'm going to show you the yarns in a second, separately. But I mean, if this doesn't scream Tracy to you, you haven't been here long enough. I love the browns. Brown is my favorite color to wear. I love browns and greens and all the neutrals and just, fall colors. And this is going to be the perfect hoodie for me. So the yarn that I'm using, let's get up my project bag. So I wound this yarn on my old ball winder and it hated me. So this skein looks horrible and the other 2 look even worse. But I have 3 skeins of this yarn here and it is Ushi Tita in their Squirrel Kids colorway. I bought this at the last EYF I went to and I absolutely love the color. It's the perfect brown. I mean, if I had to choose one colorway to work with for the rest of my life, it probably would be this one. I adore the color. It's such a nice and rich brown. Now I have to retrieve my bag. Okay. So I'm gonna try and find a label. Okay. I have 3 labels for my 3 yarns. Let's get them all out. Okay. Now, can you not fall down? Let's do it again. I'm going to show you the yarn again. And I'm going to show you the label after. So this is the yarn. It is so pretty. It's also a glitter base, which I quite like. It has bronze stellina in it. I think it's the only yarn that I ever had with bronze stellina. So it is Ushi Tita, and it is the Squirrel Kids colorway. I have 3 skeins of this yarn. And like I said, I bought them at EYF. 9. And so the first contrast color that I'm using is this one here. This is a skein of Vivid Wool. in the Einstök colorway. Vivid Wool is an Icelandic yarn dyer, and I got this yarn as a gift from my wonderful friend Linda, and it's just so gorgeous. This colorway has all the colors in it that I love, and it is perfect as a contrast with this brown. So first contrast color, and let's get rid of the labels I don't need anymore. And the other contrast color I'm using is this one here, and this is Hedgehog Fibers in the Pod colorway. Is that a colorway, or is that an acronym for something? I don't know. I'm pretty sure that I got most of my Hedgehog Fibers stash in their Potluck Club, so I'm not quite sure. I don't know. Doesn't matter. It's Hedgehog Fibers sock yarn in a very pretty green. Let's go with that. Very pretty green with a tiny bit of orangey brown in it. And so the first striping sequence, like I said, is done. It looks like this. And the next striping sequence will be green, gray, green. And then it's gray, green, gray again. You know, that changes. What I did, except for with one end, I'm doing the weave in Steven method, which basically is just weaving in the ends as I go. And I'm really happy I'm doing that, because these stripes and those ends, no. I don't mind weaving in ends, but when I have to weave in like a million more than usually because it's striped, I don't like that. So I decided to weave them in as I go, but somehow I missed one, which is fine. I'm gonna weave it in probably now after I finish podcasting, and then I'm gonna leave those little ends hanging until after it's washed and blocked, and then I'm gonna snip off whatever is left after. I'm knitting this on a US 4, that's a 3.25 millimeter needle, because that's what the pattern called for. If you do not know Julie's patterns, you should find out how wonderful they are. What she does in her patterns, I'm just gonna show you the first word here. Can you see? She's doing all of her patterns, or all of the recent ones. She does a 1 page, 1 size patterns. So you only have to print the page with only your numbers on. There's not like 25 numbers, or I don't know how many sizes, but there's only one number on your page that you have to take into consideration. And I love that. I think that is the most amazing idea for writing a pattern for clothing. So that's the two things I have on my needles right now. I will probably make more of my And One for All pattern. I mean, I'm definitely gonna make more, but that's just gonna be my brainless project that I have on the go, because I wrote the pattern, so I know it by heart. And that is all I have on the needles actively. I didn't spin, I didn't weave, I didn't crochet, didn't do anything really, because I was so focused on my pattern. So that brings me to reading, listening, watching. I brought 2 books, and I brought the book that I'm currently still reading and one that I recently finished. So it is now like the 27th of May, and I set up my reading journal on the 20th. I was in a reading slump for the first half, or for the first 2/3 of the month. And it took me 20 days to finish the first book of the month. And I think I finished 6 by now, 5 or 6. So, you know, the last week or so has been great for reading, but before that, it was just like, what's happening? So the thing that kind of got me back into my reading habit was reading a manga. I read Yona, Princess of the Dawn, book number 2. I decided to go with the German for that particular book series because it's a translation from Japanese either way. If I go with German or English, doesn't matter. So I just chose the books that were cheaper to buy because there's like 36 books in this series. You can read one in an hour, and each book is $7.50 for the German book. And the English version, I think it would be 11 euros per book. So I just chose the cheaper one. And I couldn't find them used. Yeah, I just have to buy the books. And so I read the second one. I read the first one a while ago. I'm pretty sure I talked about it. And one thing that I have to learn is that basically that little blurb on the back tells you kind of everything that's happening in the book. Because it's a manga, let's just go and show you a page. Let's go to this page, for instance. There's not a whole lot happening. And, you know, you read this and you go on and there's not a whole lot happening on each page because there's the picture and the speaking bubbles and stuff. So it's a very, I like the idea and I like the story. That's why I'm reading it. But I think I'm going to need at least 10 books until something really happens. I don't know yet, but I'm enjoying it. And I have the books up until book number 5. So I might read book 3 later today. I also listened to some audiobooks. I listened to, what did I listen to? I listened to a book called The Body in the Dales by J.R. Ellis. And I listened to that through Kindle Unlimited Audio. It's called the Yorkshire Mysteries, I think. And it's a series with 11 books or so. And all of them are on KU Audio. So I decided to start that one and I enjoyed it. I gave it 3 stars out of 5. It was, you know, it was okay. And I also listened to an audiobook yesterday. Yesterday I was alone at home and I decided that I wanted to listen to an audiobook, but I also want to start that hoodie. So I had to concentrate at least a tiny bit, you know. So I opted for a re-listen of a favorite. And I listened to The Bigfoot Blunder by Amanda M. Lee. I've read those books like 5 times by now. And I enjoyed it as much as I did the other 4 times. It's the first one in the Charlie Rhodes Cozy Mystery series. And I'm going to re-listen to the whole series. I've listened to the first 6 books. There are 10 now. And I have not read on, you know. I do have 7, 8, 9 in physical form. And I want to get the other ones in physical form as well because I really like them. So I listened to that. I did read a book to my son this month and we really enjoyed that. It took us 3 days to read a 250-page book and I read half of it on the first day out loud. And then he was just like, go on reading, Mom. And it was like, nope. 125 pages in, I'm done for today. I'm not going to read you anymore. But we finished it over the course of the next 2 days. And that was The Great Cat Detective Ra, like in the ancient Egyptian god Ra. And it does take place in ancient Egypt. And he's Pharaoh's cat. And he solves the crime of a stolen amulet. And it was really funny. And yeah, my kid loved it. So we bought the second book. I'm going to read that to him probably next week. And now to the other book I'm physically reading. It's the only book I'm currently actually physically reading. And that is Anxiety, Panicking About Panic by Joshua Fletcher. It looks like this. It is quite thin. I am over halfway through and I hope to finish it by the end of the month. It's a very helpful book for me right now and I'm really enjoying it. I am marking a lot of things. So one of the most important things in here for me was the symptoms of an anxiety and panic problem. Psychological symptoms. Can you see that long list? everything that has a green dash on it is something that I have experienced or am experiencing on the, as a normal thing in my life. And the other double page is physical symptoms. And yeah, I have a lot of those too. So I am reading this book in the hopes that I can learn how to make this anxiety problem a slightly smaller problem. So that's that. I'm going to talk about it when I'm finished reading, but I'm enjoying it so far. I have been watching The Rookie because I love it, because it has Nathan Fillion in it. I love Nathan Fillion. Also, Tim Bradford. I mean, that's the character name. His name is Eric Winter, but I like his character a lot. And yeah, I've been watching that. I'm on season 2 and I love it. What else have I done? I haven't done a lot other than that. So let's just continue. After reading, listening, watching, I go to everything else. So I have a few things. First up, tomorrow, Saturday, let me check, 28th is our next VKN. VKNs always happen at 9 o'clock Berlin time because that is my time zone. And as we have people attending from New Zealand to Washington State, I kind of have to find a time that works for everyone. So 9 o'clock in the evening, my time works best. If you want to join, I will post links to the private Zoom room thing on Ravelry and also on Discord. I'm going to leave a link to the Discord channel down below, to the Discord server down below. I still don't understand the lingo of Discord, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to leave a link to Discord down below and you can join the VKN if you want to. And just say hi. Very nice people. And so that's the first thing. VKN tomorrow, May 28th. The next thing is, I have 2 more things. I want to talk about the pattern real quick. Well, not real quick. We'll talk about stuff about the pattern. And I want to talk about mental health. I'm going to go with the pattern first. So when I wrote my pattern that I just showed you, I had a hard time pricing it because, first of all, I kind of always think that the things that I make aren't worth a lot of money, which is a problem I have to work on because it's a stupid thought. And I had no idea how to price this. I settled on €6 in the end because it is a 6-in-1 pattern and you get to do all the things with it. And I tested everything and I had test knitters for things, and I put a lot of work into this. So I thought about this and I did a little bit of math because I like numbers. So I put in about 35 hours of work. That is the sample knitting, writing the pattern, having the idea, writing the idea down, coordinating test knitters, editing the pattern, getting all the samples knit, doing the video, the introduction video, writing all of the social media posts, doing the Patreon posts, putting it up on Ravelry, putting it up on Etsy. All of that was about 35 hours of work, which, this is a very simple pattern. It's not a colorwork sweater in 18 sizes. That's what I mean when I say simple pattern. And if I were to pay myself a wage for my work, and I would go with $12.50, which is a smidge above minimum wage. Minimum wage right now in Germany is at like 9 something, but starting October, it's going to jump up to 12. So I went with $12.50, so my work would be over €450 just for the working hours. And then I had material, which luckily cotton yarns aren't super expensive. So I spent about €25 on the materials. So all in all, it amounted to like €472.50 or something. And then I am selling a pattern for €6, which means that I have to sell 77 patterns to break even. Granted, I'm not paying myself a wage. But if I consider my working hours, 77 patterns to break even. And that's a lot of patterns to sell, I did that math because mainly I just wanted to know for myself, but I also find it important to talk about these things. And yeah, I find it fascinating. That's all I can say. So I just wanted to share that with you. The other thing, or the last thing, is mental health talk. And I've had a weird week. I mean, it was like a constant roller coaster. On Monday, I went to a day spa with my sister-in-law, which was amazing. Don't get me wrong, it was great, but it gave me a lot of anxiety because I had never done anything like that. I got a facial, never done that. I know, don't come at me. I've never done that. And the whole, what's going to happen there? Will I react to any of the products she uses or he uses? I don't know who would do with that. All of those things gave me a lot of anxiety. And for someone who does not have anxiety, this sounds probably like you're at a day spa, enjoy yourself. I did enjoy myself. I really did. But I was constantly worried about what could happen. What's going to happen at that facial? How is this going to work out? Where do I have to go? So even though it was wonderful, I was exhausted afterwards, which I think is not really the thought of going to a day spa. But I would do it again, because now I've done it once and I know kind of how it works. So it's going to be easier to do it another time. And then on Tuesday, I kind of just, felt the aftermath of that. And then I woke up to horrible news from the US because of another shooting. And that made me feel so bad. And it kind of sparked a thought process in me where it's like, when you have a small business like I do, I'm doing my patterns, I'm doing Patreon, I'm working on something super exciting that I can talk to you about in probably a month. You kind of have to promote your stuff constantly because you're the only one doing it. And then something like this happens. And I had just put up a post promoting my things, my new pattern. And then I looked on Instagram stories and I saw the same thing over and over and over. And I was like, oh my God, I just promoted my stuff. Like, that's the most unimportant shit ever. However, I don't know how to say this without sounding like a complete asshole. There's so many horrible things happening in the world right now. And I don't know if that has always been the case and we just know now because of media and social media coverage of everything, or if it's actually getting worse by the month. I don't know that. But what is an appropriate amount of time to wait to promote your things after a tragedy happens? Because let's say it's 3 days. If it were 3 days, you would never get to promote your things because there's so many bad things happening. It's just one on top of the other, of the other, of the other, all the time, constantly. It left me so conflicted because on one hand, I felt so horrible for what happened. And for, I'm far away. I cannot even do anything in an election. I just have to watch. And I had just promoted my pattern, like, not taking that into consideration because I hadn't known about it. On the other hand, if I stop promoting my work for 3-5 days a week, every time something horrible happens, I never get to promote my work. So I would love to know what your thoughts on this are, because I do not know. I don't know how to react in these situations, and I do not know how to deal with those situations and still do the work that's necessary for me to be able to do my work. That's my thoughts for the week. And apart from that, I've been feeling great lately. I had a very intense week leading up to the week where I worked on my pattern exclusively. I worked on my pattern on the knitting of the things for like 10 days. And before that, I had a very intense week that left me emotionally very exhausted. And I feel like working on that pattern helped me find myself again, center myself again. So all in all, I'm doing a lot better than I did last year at this time, because last year at this time I was at my absolute lowest point. And I thought I was. It got worse. But, since September, since I'm working on learning about anxiety and how to deal with anxiety, I'm getting constantly better. And I'm still getting constantly better. Still, I have days where I feel horrible and where my anxiety is winning. But it's winning less and less. And that's the important bit. So I'm going to leave you with that. Small progress still is progress. And I am going to go now. I hope you all have a wonderful time. Enjoy your life and go vote. That's all I can say. I hope you have a great time.